What's up, Broncos country? Good Morning Broncos is live here at the Mile High Sports Studio. It is game day. Game day for the Denver Broncos as they prepare for their first preseason game tonight against the Arizona Cardinals. The game kicks off at 8 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time. Can we talk about that for a minute? Why 8 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time? I get it. It's in Arizona. There's a weird time differential, like Mountain Time for them. Are they on the same time frame as us? Like, if it's 8 o'clock here, it's 8 o'clock there. Or is it where they're an hour behind us still? What season are they in? Because it's like daylight savings.
In Arizona?
Yeah.
I know half the year they're with us, half the year they're with that. I don't even know. I also want to say, like, you're not even going to introduce me. You're going to we're
going to fire things off here.
You're going to just, you're not even going to wine and dine me before, you ask me some questions. At least set me up.
Well, I'm sorry. It's a frustration because you know what I have to do? I have to write an article at night, which isn't bad. Like a regular season, I get it. But then it's like I have to do a post-game podcast.
Yeah, no, the time zones are interesting. Are we both in agreement, though, that daylight saving should just be, like, we should just get rid of that?
See, I'm pissed off because it should have already been that way.
Yeah. Like that's where Arizona's winning because they don't acknowledge it.
Yeah, why can't we as a country acknowledge it? I like waking up in the morning. It still be kind of a little bit dark out, but then it's like it's lighter, longer. I like that. I enjoy that. Anyways, folks, good morning, Broncos country. Welcome into Good Morning Broncos. I'm Cody Roark, your host. As always, joining me today is my good friend Aniello Piro. Does a lot of things for us here at Mile High Sports. We're going to go back and forth because obviously today's a big day. If you're a Broncos fan, you're going to love that, hey, there's football. There is preseason football. It's been nice because for once you get to see this Broncos team, AP, against another team, another scheme that they have yet to see so far. And it's a good test regardless if, I don't know if Arizona starters are going to play in this game, but it's different. You're not going against your own guys, so you don't necessarily have to worry about letting up on a hit or something like that. You actually get a hit, tackle, bring guys to the ground. This is what it's all about.
Yeah, no, and I mean, football season is here, baby. Like, preseason is like the unofficial start. It's like you kind of get back in that mood. There's actually reason to tune into the preseason here locally because as you've covered for us at milehighsports.com, as well as the social handles at Mile High Sports, Sean Payton is going to play his starters. Now, for how long, we might not necessarily be sure how many quarters, how many plays. We'll see how that all kind of shakes out. But year one of the Sean Payton era starts with Russell Wilson getting some preseason reps. I think he was with Ryan Harris earlier this week, says Javonte Williams 100% ready to go. Whether or not he plays, we'll find out. But you and I believe, discussed this on the episode earlier this week. Now is the time to lay that foundation. Make your mistakes, get the kinks out, do what you got to do, and help get this offense back on track. So it's not just any ordinary preseason. Like, the Rams never play their guys. The Broncos will be playing their guys, so I'm excited.
Well, you said it. This is where you make your mistakes, and this is where I always like to encourage fans, don't get caught up in whether the Broncos win or whether they lose. The thing you want to see is how do they look going full speed against a different opponent besides themselves that you see in practice. We can only give you so much of what we see at practice. And look, there's a certain benefit in terms of the evaluation. Watch these guys in practice every single day. Offense has been doing really good lately. That doesn't mean that the defense is bad. And when the defense is doing whatever they can and they flush through the offense, doesn't mean that the offense is bad. What ultimately is going to matter is how does the Broncos offense, defense, special teams, how do these units operate against other opposing teams? And even if Denver loses tonight against the Cardinals, it's not a big deal. It's the preseason. But more so, you're getting evaluation. And to your point about Sean Payton and the starters playing, he did say we're only going to get about maybe 15 to 18 total snaps between those guys. So,
couple, maybe a nice good long drive, 2 drives, a couple first downs, hopefully. Bad. And you know what I do think is interesting about this matchup in particular against the Arizona Cardinals? I was listening to some national programming this morning, kind of getting ready for the festivities of the preseason. You're going up against a team in Arizona with a brand new head coach, 40-year-old Jonathan Gannon. And there's this notion around the league that when you're a young head coach or a first-time head coach going into a new organization, you want to set that tone, especially an organization that has had a history of losing, especially as they were last season with Kyler Murray and, how everything kind of played out. So you would expect Arizona to treat the preseason game a lot more seriously than, say, a team like, I don't know, the Chiefs or, the Bengals or, or some of these teams that have been very good. They're trying to change the culture.
Have you seen Andy Reid in a preseason? The starter's getting a lot of run.
That's true.
So it's paid off for them. But, you do run the inherent risk. And I said it earlier this week, if you play your starters, that's fine. If you don't play your starters, I certainly understand that too. I'm not either way on it. I just know that if a key player gets injured, they're out for the year. It's like, why were they even playing, right? It's a lose-lose scenario. But you want to see that because you're not getting that full, real evaluation of a real game at practice. You can try to simulate it as best you can by putting in situations, but we're talking about tackling. We're talking about – because in the training camp, guess what? You can't hit the quarterback. You're not going to touch your own guy. Now you can let loose, and you could destroy another team's quarterback. So I think that's where the evaluation is really going to come in here for the Broncos in tonight's preseason game. But I even go back to your point about the national media errors. I mean, let's take a look at this Arizona Cardinals team, even if they, well, essentially they're going to play their starters in some form. Kyler Murray obviously is not ready to play yet. So it's either going to be, I think, Colt McCoy getting the start at quarterback. You have Clayton Tune getting some work in as well. Is the starting offense, aside from, Kyler, are they going to play? Are they starting receivers, Hollywood Brown, other guys? I don't know yet. But I'm a little concerned about the field tonight.
Yeah, I have noticed that the field isn't in the best of shape. And I think Jonathan Gannon, this is his first chance to make an impression, in a game like scenario or a game setting. It is a game. It's just not a regular season game. So I would expect the Cardinals to come out, whether it's the bench players, guys fighting for roster spots still, right? I'm expecting a big effort, I guess you could say, from the Arizona Cardinals. I don't think they're just going to roll over, but you bring up the field. And, I believe I was reading some quotes earlier this week from Peyton talking about how the field conditions maybe don't actually factor in or as much as you might think to whether or not guys play or how much they do or don't play. It seems like Sean Payton is a man of principle, and the principle is to get your guys some reps in his system for the first time, whether that's Wilson, defensive players, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, whatever it might be. But you bring up a good point. The pictures we've seen of that field out there in Arizona, not exactly the best of conditions.
No, it's not, but it also, Sean Payton alluded to it as well on Wednesday's practice, that they're monitoring it. They're going to bring, obviously, your standard cleats. They come with the plastic mold now on them. They might have to take it old school on this field where, I don't know if you remember, but back when I first started playing, we had the cleats where we had to screw in.
Oh, yeah.
We had to screw in those little knobs, and those are great for grass, for uneven surfaces. And so I'm very curious to see what they decide to do with that. But regardless, we're going to see some football. We're going to see some starters play. I'm excited about it. And obviously, I'm hoping for both sides, both teams, that everyone comes away healthy in this upcoming game here, obviously on tonight, NFL Network, or if you're here locally in Denver, you can catch the action on 9 News. I believe it's also being broadcasted on KOA. You can get Dave Logan, Rick Lewis, Susie Wargen on the call there. So you're gonna be covered all the way. And then obviously, I do a post-game report for Lockdown Broncos. And then Monday, we'll recap the preseason, share our initial thoughts here on GMB. But the thing here with training camp, I've been thoroughly impressed, and I've made note of this too. AP, watching a lot of these guys on this 90-man roster from OTAs and minicamp through training camp now leading into preseason game number 1, my background, as a player and as a coach, I have so much appreciation for seeing some of these guys grow before my eyes. And look, these coaches, they get a better look than I do, but for me, I always how did this guy look in OTAs? Did he maintain that in training camp? How does he look in the preseason? I'm excited just to see these guys that I've had a chance to build close relationships with, see them go out there and compete for a roster spot, because it's hard. People don't realize how hard it is to make it in the NFL. And even if you're on the practice squad, it is tough to make a practice squad, because Sean Payton, while this, I think, adds a lot of pressure to a lot of these young guys, Sean Payton has been very adamant. It's not just about your 90-man roster that you're evaluating. You're looking at 31 other teams' 90-man rosters right now during this time of the year, because when roster cuts happen, if there's a player that you have graded highly, you go out and you go get this guy. So the pressure's on here. But more importantly, I think Sean Payton, the message he sent as well on Wednesday that stands out to me, he doesn't want guys after they're done playing, right, your starters, doesn't want them, taking their helmet, their jersey, their pads off. He wants them on the sideline, part of the experience there, which I applaud and I agree with that 100%. And be there to support these young guys, because these are teammates. And obviously, while you may be in some position competitions with some guys, go out there and support your guys. I mean, that's what it's all about. Not only is it just, football, the business aspect, we know how important it is, but it's also, you want to instill those realms in the foundation of brotherhood and camaraderie in your locker room, even if you're competing with guys for a roster spot.
So we talked about field conditions. We talked about Sean Payton. We talked about the starters. There's a variety of other factors that play into this game. What are your 3 big things that you're keeping an eye on in this first preseason game, the first game of the Sean Payton era for the Denver Broncos?
It's a great question. Well, let's go to number 1 here. I think more importantly, starter's going to get 15 to 18 reps. How do they look? Offense, defense, special teams. For the offense, do they come out? Are they in rhythm? Because the biggest key for Sean Payton throughout practice has been get in and out of the huddle, break the huddle, get to the ball, get the ball snapped. He doesn't want the ball to be snapped with 3 or 4 seconds left on the play clock, maybe like 15 to 10 seconds. He wants them to have purpose in what they do. So how does that operation look from the tempo and the overall feel of it? Execution-wise, are there breakdowns? Look, no Mike McGlinchey in this game. He's out for a couple weeks in knee sprain. Who starts at right tackle? Is it Isaiah Prince, who got the reps on Wednesday? Is it Cam Fleming, who was listed on the unofficial depth chart? I just want to see the offense operate. It would be nice if the offense could go through, have a sustainable drive here, play clean football, protect Russell Wilson, run the ball effectively well, and then, obviously go down and score. But I guarantee you, fan frustration on Twitter is going to be crazy if their first drive they go 3 and out.
Oh, I can already picture it.
Avoid that. Avoid that.
That would be a win. If they can avoid a 3 and out, just one first
Progress.
down. One, quick slant over the middle for 10 yards or a little hook route, whatever it might be, that would go a long way in calming the hearts and minds of Broncos fans.
Yeah, 100%. Number 2, I think more importantly, which rookie player that the Broncos have, whether they were drafted, whether they're undrafted rookie free agents, which rookie has the biggest impact? And for me, it's like, okay, you have a multitude of guys. Marvin Mims is obviously one of the bigger names to watch in this game here for the Broncos. Drew Sanders, another one there. We don't get to see Riley Moss because he's got the core muscle surgery. He's not going to be able to participate in the preseason. But how do these guys look? And I would even go to greater lengths, undrafted guys. Running back Jaleel McLaughlin has been fantastic all throughout training camp. I'm getting my eye on him, and I also have my eye on Marcus Haynes, outside linebacker. But even giving a shout-out to wide receiver Taylor Grimes out of Incarnate Word. He's also another guy to keep an eye on here. When we talk about rookies, undrafted guys, I said it to our good friend Andrew Mason at practice, said, hey, don't let Bill Belichick see this guy because he could be the next Julian Edelman in a sense, maybe how Bill sees him. This is just a guy who's just hard to cover. Like in one-on-ones, like he's even beaten Justin Simmons twice in one-on-ones. He's shifty. He's a tough cover there, and so I imagine he's going to be in line. But, yeah, that would be my second thing I'm watching for is which rookie has the biggest impact. And I'd say third and fourth. This may sound cliche, but how do the second and third team units do, right? You want to see consistency. Like, obviously, I think the expectations for the first team O and the first team D, they're going to be higher because those are your starters. But can the second team and third team guys, can they maintain that momentum if you have it, if you build it? To me, that's also my third thing that I'm watching for.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I think everything you bring up is a valid point. And I think to kind of summarize it in my own words is just look good. Look the part. Yeah. You don't got to be incredible. You don't got to be, you don't want them to look awful, of course, but get a passing grade, get a nice little C+, B-. You don't have to set the world on fire and have all the fireworks and the pop and sizzle. Look competent, because that's what we missed from this team last year under Nathaniel Hackett. And really, there's been degrees of incompetency that have surrounded this organization since they won Super Bowl 50. So you've got a pro, you've got a general in here in your head coach in Sean Payton. You've got a proven quarterback historically in Russell Wilson. You've got Vance Joseph, who's done a great job defensively in the league, working with the Cardinals previously as well. So I think the biggest thing is look the part, play sound football, and don't shoot yourself in the foot. So we'll see if the Broncos can do just that in their first preseason game against the Arizona Cardinals. We talked about 3 themes. How about 3 players that you have your eye on? You talk about making rosters, practice squad, scouting for other teams. Who are 3 guys that you've got your eye on in this first preseason game?
Trying to figure out in my head how I'm going to divvy it up, right? Because, look, you get offense, you get defense. Throw special teams in there. I think that does matter.
Guys make teams off special teams.
100%. You need, and Denver's been horrible in special teams since 2015 as well. Everyone's talking about offense and quarterback. Special teams have been just as bad, if not worse, in that regard since they won it in 2015. So for me, I'm going to go with the defensive player here first. I'm going to go with P.J. Locke. Now, P.J. Locke, obviously at the safety position, got a lot of high praise from Vance Joseph earlier this week when Vance had said, hey, the growth I've seen from him from spring till now, it's been tremendous, his maturity. Not only is he a key special teams guy for him, he's the best special teams player that they have, but also he's in the mix, heavily in the mix for that third safety spot. So what does that mean? Well, if Justin Simmons and Kane Stearns are your projected starters, now you have P.J. Locke competing against Kareem Jackson, the OG, the vet who's tremendous. Still, I think can still play at a high level. P.J. has been very valuable in an under-the-radar role for Denver. Been on the team since 2019, has worked his way up through special teams, and showed last year that he could play defense. So he's going to get a lot of run tonight against the Cardinals. He's the defensive player that I'm watching. On the offensive side of the ball, for me, I want to see Greg Dulcich. Greg Dulcich, right?
Flow, let it flow, baby.
And I think a lot of people are reading a little bit too much into the depth chart because Adam Troutman comes in at number 1 ahead of him, Dulcich at number 2. I've been on the record of saying this. None of that stuff matters because every one of these tight ends, and Sean Payton will tell you this himself, they've rotated in with the first, second, and third team units. So for Dulcich, though, he's caught passes from 3 different quarterbacks here in camp. How does he look in this role that maybe Sean Payton has, as what he says, a vision for? Dulcich is an offensive player to watch. Let's talk about special teams. There's a kicking battle going on, and you got Elliott Fry, who's coming in, not a lot of NFL regular season experience, has kicked in a couple of games, couple of seasons, has been on training camp rosters, has been in different leagues as well, and has been very solid in training camp. And then you got Brett Maher, former Dallas Cowboy, who, AP, I know as much as you love and hate the Cowboys, as a kicker in the regular season, he was very good.
Yeah.
He just had the not the preseason, but the postseason yips on extra points. And it was bad, 1 of 6.
Tough scene. It
was rough, but he's overcome that. He's obviously got a powerful leg. He's got he's got a big leg that can kick from 50 plus, 60 plus. He had a 61-yarder last year for the Cowboys. They don't play at altitude. So how could he maybe fare in Denver? The kicking competition between these two guys throughout training camp has been very even from the onset. So for me, that's the special teams thing I'm going to watch here. And maybe throw a little bit of honorable mention in the return game. Marvin Mims, Montreal, Washington. Who emerges in that, I think, is something to watch tonight.
No, I think those are all great points, and obviously we'll keep an eye on all of those players throughout the preseason game. Real quick, I do want to ask you, because I think I saw you tweet about it earlier this week, or X about it, whatever you're calling the app these days. Is there a quarterback battle for the backup spot between Stidham and DiNucci? Because it looks like DiNucci's been at least, looking pretty good from the naked eye.
Well, DiNucci's been very solid. He's had what I would call an under-the-radar, not being talked about enough type of training camp here for the Broncos. Stidham obviously was brought in to be the backup quarterback for them, but I would say that you should probably keep an eye on these two guys. Sean Payton wants Jarrett Stidham to be the backup. That's why he was brought in. They view him as a guy who's got a trajectory, but Ben DiNucci has shown a lot of growth and has been very solid. I mean, obviously he was a guy who backed up Dak Prescott for some time in Dallas. Ben DiNucci's been making some plays at camp, so I'm not saying there's a quarterback controversy for Denver.
But there's a little bit of a competition if DiNucci plays well?
I think so, yeah. I think you can now, kind of spark a fire here and say, okay, hey, they're going to keep 3 regardless, I think.
Right.
So it's in what order? I mean, they may even just say it where it's either of these guys will be the backup to Russell Wilson. They're not going to necessarily peg who, because they can have now 3 quarterbacks on the game day roster. So
right. That's a new rule, isn't it?
Yeah. There's no need to really designate this is the backup, this isn't, because hey, we got 3 quarterbacks. If Russ goes down, we got 2 guys to choose from.
It is interesting, though. The only reason I bring it up is because, obviously, those 2 guys are going to get a bulk of the reps in these preseason games. But you alluded to it, that they gave Stidham a pretty fair contract to be a backup quarterback. And I think back to, I believe it was the first day of training camp where Sean Payton basically, maybe a little tongue-in-cheek, was like, it don't matter if you got a guaranteed deal, unrestricted free agent, undrafted, he's going to treat everybody equally.
100%.
So just because Jarrett Stidham got a good contract in the offseason does not guarantee his role as the backup quarterback to Russell Wilson. I mean, is it fair to say that right now Stidham is penciled in, but nothing has been put in dry ink?
Well, as Sean Payton would say, the depth chart right now is pencil. It's not written in stone. It's not written in pen or Sharpie, whatever the hell you want to call it. But yeah, I would say you can't just make that judgment call right now by just saying, okay, Stidham's the guy, because you do have another quarterback in there, and he's going to get reps, and he's going to get different opportunities. I'm curious, though, AP, let's say Stidham comes out in his first game, struggles. What do they do with DiNucci the second game, right, against the San Francisco 49ers next week? What's the rotation look like between these 2 units? To me, I don't know what that is, but, I mean, obviously Stidham has gotten all the second-team reps, but if DiNucci comes out and balls out, I think that you got to give him at least a look. Have these guys compete a little bit.
I mean, think about, how some of these quarterbacks have burst on the scene. Think about Russell Wilson. Play through the preseason. And I'm not saying anyone's taking Russ's spot.
That mega contract.
Exactly.
Oh, my
Dak
goodness.
Prescott, opportunity to step up when Tony Romo goes down.
Trevor Siemian.
Exactly right. There's a lot of those instances across the league. Let me ask you this as well as we kind of continue along with the offensive conversation. So Russell Wilson, 12 to 15 plays, right? Or offense, just as a blanket statement, right? How much similarity do you think we'll see when Wilson comes out of the game in regards to the scheme and the plays and the X's and O's from Sean Payton's offense? Do you think he has a different game plan depending on who's running the offense, or do you think it'll be a lot of the same with just plug in and play in different players?
It's a great question. I think you look at, and Sean Payton has hinted to this, you look at what these players do well, right? Obviously, you have your foundation, your offensive structure, but we look at Russell Wilson. Russ is very good being a mobile on the run, being able to extend plays with his legs, find open guys, sidearm throws. Where I look at Stidham, I look at DiNucci. These guys, in my opinion, I think they're better suited, not for the mobile stuff, but I think they're good to be able to stand in the pocket. So from a play calling standpoint, I think it's maybe you have your foundations, your core stuff that you run, but they just maybe operate a little bit differently depending on the style of the quarterback that is in. I think with Russ, you could do a little bit more. With these guys, you want to see them hang in the pocket a little bit and strike and deliver. But this offense is really designed to be quick hitting, get the ball to your hands quickly. So we'll see. They're going to set things up in the play action. Obviously, that's going to be a big portion for them. But I think the key here is also to run the football, to set up the pass.
Run the damn ball.
I'm not a
proponent
against it. If Denver can find a way to do it effectively, it's going to help them so much this season. So for me, that's kind of the vibe that I would say I'm looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I'll just throw this out there as well for any of the fine folks that like to play the numbers over at Superbook Sports as I do. With news that the Broncos will be playing their starters this week, we have seen the line balloon a little bit. It was sitting at Denver -2.5 earlier in the week, up to Denver -5.5, obviously, because you expect some big-time players to be playing in that game. And Arizona, even if they do play their guys, not a very good team from last year. So shout out to the friends at Superbook.
Yeah. Shout out to Superbook for that as well. Thank you for sponsoring our GMB show here at Mile High Sports. But, I mean, AP, the time has come. Football is here.
Cue the music. John Cena theme song. Let's go.
It is here. I'm excited for it. We'll have complete recap and coverage following the game. MileHighSports.com. I'll recap my takeaways, players who stood out, and much more. And on top of that, next week, training camp continues. I'll have my daily recaps. Make sure you subscribe here on YouTube so you never miss out on what we got going, not just with Denver Broncos coverage, but with Denver Nuggets with Ryan Blackburn, Colorado Rockies with Drew Kreisman, and the Colorado Avalanche with Arif Dean. Mile High Sports should be your go-to hub if you're a Colorado sports fan. We have you covered every single day. AP, it was a good chatting with you, my man. Broncos preseason here. Broncos country. We'll see you on Monday for a brand new episode of the show.
Let's ride.